What do you want most in life? Money, honor, pride, or even absolute power? Everything you are looking for is at the top of the tower, called the Tower of Gods. One day, our main character Bam is running after Rachel, his crush, sister, cousin. We don't know yet, but Rachel enters the tower, and after her, the main character goes too. When the main character gets inside, he's left alone, and behind him appears a kind of monster called Head-On, the guardian of the tower, who asks the main character, "What you are looking for is at the top of the tower, but you must be willing to pass tests to get to it." Yeah, what he is looking for is the girl from before. And just like that, he shows him the first test, where he must go through this cage and destroy this ball that is protected by this dragon. The main character, without thinking, is going to try it. For the record that he is a normal human being. Well, I think so. But a girl jumps up and kicks the main character. She is accompanied by this guy who pulls out a mini ball and attacks the main character. Well, it was a translator, since they speak another language. That mini ball is important for the future, and tells the main character that he is an irregular or someone who entered the tower on his own. And seeing his weak face, I stop him so he doesn't die when he tries to face the dragon. And apparently she fell in love with him and lends him a powerful legendary sword to defeat the dragon, and thus help him since she saw him with desire. She is a princess and the other her guide, and I guess she is a rebellious girl. When entering the cage, the dragon eats him and ends of the anime. Nah, he did it on purpose to kill him inside, since the main character is not afraid of anything, and when he tries to destroy the ball, he can't, and while he tries again and again, we are told about his past. He was trapped under the floor, and so much trying to destroy the roof could not, until one day appears Rachel, and so they spend a lot of time together to become friends. By the way, he lost his memory. End of the past, and the boy this tells the protagonist to ask the sword strength. The girl before says it is impossible to give it to him since she tried and nothing, but the protagonist gets it, and really the sword is a woman. She didn't lend her power to the girl because she likes men, and that's why the protagonist was able to destroy the ball and pass to the next level. And while the truth is, this boy and girl, I don't know who they are or why they wanted to help the protagonist, but they leave knowing that the holder took the legendary sword. Meanwhile, the protagonist is in a place full of wheat, and in the loudspeaker, someone says that to pass to the next level, 200 people must be alive because there are a total of 400 in this place. So when other people trying to get to the top, by the way, before they gave the protagonist this ball, they can be used as a translator and also served for more things like knowing the number of survivors in the test. And so fast the protagonist almost died, but he was saved by this one who was killed by this one. Who killed him, this one? Well, no. Meanwhile, the protagonist tries to kill the monster. He has never done it and he wouldn't like to do it for the first time. Well, or so we think. But two very powerful guys appeared who smelled the power of the legendary sword. This one is called Rak, the lizard, and Kun. At the end, Kun become friends with the main character because he doesn't like killing too much, and instead of trying to kill, he looks for allies for the next level. But Rak the lizard wants the main character's sword, and so the main character and Kun run away from him. Although it wasn't for long, but there are 200 survivors left. So part 1 of this level was overcome and part 2 of the level begins, which consists of forming a team of 3. And as you imagine, Kun, the protagonist, and Rak the lizard create the team together. They forced Rak the lizard. He's a good guy, and the only thing he is looking for is strong people to be able to face them and become stronger. And so he appears in a place with all the other team members, and they tell us they could only be in a team of 3, 120 people, and suddenly appears a supreme and administrator of the tests, who is someone who could reach the top of the tower, or as they say, the place where the king of the tower is. And so begins a new test. The administrator takes water from his hand, moving the players further forward, and creates a barrier. And the test consists of passing through the water barrier, which is hard. So all the members of the team have to pass. And while Kun thinks he can, and Rak the lizard too, but he thinks that the problem will be the protagonist. He was wrong because the protagonist was already out of it because the water did not touch him by mistake. Also, says the administrator, and as he is already out, he passed the test. The administrator was a little surprised and decides to hang out with him, telling him that we bet on who will cross the bar first and whoever wins will answer all the questions of the other. And they chose the same person and were in a tie, and so the administrator allows him to ask the questions. The first thing was if he saw Rachel, he said no. Then he asked him what are the irregulars, and he said that there are regulars and irregular people. The regulars are those who live in the tower, that is those who are born here, as are most of the participants. And the irregulars are those who came from the outside, as Rachel and the protagonist, so that the tower is like a planet. And you will say, where are the inhabitants? Because I think they are in the external part of the tower. And those who want to do the test is to complete a wish of theirs. And finally, he tells him not to meet too much with Kun. The companions of the protagonist leave and soon begins level 3. But first they tell us that Kun was exiled, abandoned and betrayed by his family, and the main character never saw the sky for being underground. Well, let's go back to the present, and the level consists. Actually, we do not know well what it consists of until they get into this tunnel. Each group will find out alone, where another administrator is, and tells them that to pass the test they must enter the right door. But they only have one chance in a time of 10 minutes. And if they don't choose one in that time, they will be deleted. And the thing starts. While Kun is trying to think who to do, memories of Vietnam appear to him because his sister, who we don't know anything about her, told him not to trust anyone, since this balloon before gave them a clue by the face. But Rack the Lizard opens a door and they pass the test, because in fact they only had to open any door in less than 5 minutes. And as Rack the Lizard was hysterically because he believed that from here it does not pass, and so they managed to pass to the next test, which is different from the rest. The administrator arrives and tells them that there is an extra non-binding test that if they manage to pass will go directly to the top of the tower. Obviously everyone is interested and participate in this extra test, which is damn, this test is difficult to explain. Each group is in a cage, which this time involves people from other exams, i.e. we reveal that there are many tests. In the middle there is a crown that must be used by one of the group to put it on should not leave the throne, and the other members must protect it against the other opponent, since only 2 groups will face each other, and if the group that has the crown beats the rival will enter another group until they take the crown. And so until there is a team, and the first 2 groups that will face each other for the crown will be the athletes versus the Buddhas, and the athletes team managed to get the crown, so it's up to another group to face them. But wait a minute, isn't that Rachel? Well, I think not. 2 cells were opened, but in the end all were disqualified. Why? Well, the swordsman managed to defeat this team and the mini dragon to this group. But they were all disqualified because the mini dragon who left the throne because she saw the protagonist with the legendary sword, because those swords can only have the princesses, and the one who gave it to her is a princess. And so the mini dragon wants to get it back because she is a princess. But the administrator stops her because they cannot fight after finishing the round. But bets are allowed, and I bet with the protagonist. So if he wins, she will give him her legendary sword, but if he loses this extra test, he must give it to her. And so began the 36th round. This time 4 cages are opened, and there is no one with the crown, but the first one who gets it is Kun. And then he gives it to the main character, and Ken the Lizard leaves them all KO, with ends the 3 round and begins 4 round where 3 cages are opened and ends with the victory of the team of the protagonist. And you will say why? Because among those groups there were allies of Kun, and as he owed them 1, they were disqualified later, so they're in the 5th round. And now begins the 5th round and the last, where the strongest groups are found versus our protagonists. But the group with the hood that came from another test helps our main characters. And for various reasons, the blonde girl, who is Rachel, gets hurt, and the main character, recognizing her and seeing that she is in danger, uses a power too strange to disendanger her, that at the end, the woman with the sword gives her a kiss so she falls asleep and does not kill this player. The day continues and we see how the mini dragon has the sword and the main character is in a coma was with Kun, and Rachel appears at the door asking Kun for a favor. Do you want to know what the favor is? Firstly, subscribe Dirty. Well, he asks him not to tell the main character that he is Rachel, because I don't know, and as the main character woke up, he starts level 4, but before he starts the position selection to be able to know what role each one has in combat, and there are 5 positions: the tank, attack at close range, the lancer, attacks from a distance, the lighthouse keeper is the leader, and the one who helps his team giving orders and information, the seeker, analyzes the team and supports the fisherman, and finally the wave manipulator who uses the chakras of this anime called Shinsu. We have seen it before, the water, this and the thing that the main character did before. And well, the main character puts on new clothes and a very epic bandana once they know which is their position. They must do an exam, but before the position of the main character is the slingshot manipulator, Rack Lizard, a spearman, and Kun a leader. By the way, before doing the exam, each one trains until they can pass the exam, so that the exam is like an infinite test that they only must pass. Now I will tell you something about the princess and the king. The king of the tower is called Jahad, was the first man to reach the top of the tower, and he gave some women power for being princesses. These princesses were chosen by the families who lived in the tower. In exchange for giving power to the princesses, who are 13, and called the princesses of Jahad, basically non-biological sisters, he forbade them one thing: dating men and having children, so that the power does not spread. But one day a princess escapes and has a daughter who is the mini dragon, and as the king discovered that, he killed her, and his daughter entered the exam in case I did not say it is the mini dragon, and she is trying to take revenge by killing all the princesses, although she gets rid of the idea quickly. So now in the exam, we have a princess and her niece. If she is a princess, in the end starts level 4, in which will participate the people who have not passed. Basically all except 2, that the only thing they will receive are points to buy clothes and food. Yep, from the beginning the food, and that was worth points that have been gained throughout the exam. Well, this level consists in what they must face an administrator who is this and removes his badge, and this test will be divided into 2 teams, A and B. Each one will have its runner who will have his badge, and the one who defeats the administrator to finish the test. So if they remove this badge to the administrator, the boys win, and if he removes this badge to the team, they lose. The first to participate is Team A, led by Kun, who lost. And in the confrontation of the Team B, many things happen. For example, this guy kidnaps Rachel, wanting to kill her so that the main character disappears. He is envious of him, since he received a letter saying that, but in the end just hurts her and hides and commits suicide, so the stabbing failed because the main character arrived. The main character still believes it's Rachel, and Team B also end up winning. And then what? Well, Rachel accepted that the main character knew that it was her, and tells him the truth of the abandonment, because they had a promise and was to see the stars together. But Rachel left alone and abandoned the main character because he was in the way for being weak. But the main character doesn't care and wants to be with the test to heal their legs. That would cause paralysis, and see the stars. And so before the next level starts, the administrator tells you that Rachel is disqualified because when you have serious wounds you cannot continue. But there is a way to make it possible, and that is to have an irregular talk to a guardian to change the rules. So when you talk to him, accept and start the next level, rather the last one, which is that they must protect these dolphins from the monsters altogether. But the reality is different. This test was made for the daughters of the princess to die for the mistake of her mother. But in the end, the girl from the beginning arrives and saves them. But the guy sends a monster where the main character is, but the main character manages to defeat it. Although look it for yourselves, yep, Rachel threw him into the void. Let's forget about all the tests, everything, and just focus on Rachel. This motherfucker from the beginning had a desire, which was to become a star, and her test to become a star was to kill the protagonist. And so she did. Look how she laughs, By the way, they all passed since they all know the protagonist wanted to take Rachel to the top. They will do it for him, and Rachel will play along. But the main character isn't dead, since he will climb the tower for answers, and then many years go by.